there, health seekers. Inga from Health Origins here. So, welcome to day 12 and 13. We'll discuss day 13 of the Hunger Habit 21-day challenge. So, how are you doing? Are you following along with the challenge, or are you just taking notes so you can do it once you've got all the steps? Any answer is good. If you find this later on, do it, in April, in December, whenever you find this, it's a good day to start your 21-day challenge. So I'm enjoying a cup of Tulsi tea tonight. Apologies that I'm coming on quite late tonight, but I thought I need to do this before going to bed, because normally 10 o'clock is my sleep time, or I try anyway. So day 12. Okay, so on day 12, we are, let me actually remind myself, what was day 12? I've just put it down there. Just give me a sec. Sorry, yeah, retrospectives. Sorry, I just typed it in and it just literally, how it just goes blank. So it blanked out on me. So yeah, retrospectives. So I hope you've been using your craving tool, right? Trying to be mindful when the craving strikes, trying to be mindful and asking yourself what triggered it, what are you getting out of it, why are you eating, why are you craving something, and then being mindful and aware while you're eating, every bite being mindful, and then the last part after you eat, being mindful and aware of how your body's feeling, how your emotions are doing, what you feel emotionally, and what are your thoughts. Are you berating yourself? So yeah, what are you thinking? Okay, so that was craving tool. So I hope you've been using it for for two or 3 days now, and today we're going to be talking retrospectives, because let's face it, as much as you will want for it to go swimmingly, as much as you will want to just quit your cravings, day 1 or day 2 of using this tool, you will slip up and you will just get out, be out of control and not being able to pay attention to every bite because you're either ravenous or just couldn't give a flying whatever. Because sometimes you have days like this, sometimes you have moods like this, and it's normal, we're human. Okay, so then that's when you use this tool that I'm going to talk to you today, retrospectives, right? So look back to move forward, right? So what it means is look back at that experience where you slipped up, where you've overeaten or eaten the wrong thing, and now you're feeling sickly, you have a headache, you've overeaten, so your stomach feels like it's gonna explode, you have a hangover, food hangover the next day, whatever it is, all of these negative feelings, file them all away in your memory bank, in your database, in your bank that I told you before, and then retrospectively you can dip back into it and remember. So it's not a waste, even if you have binged, if you haven't been mindful, at least think back to those feelings, especially after the event, because you might not quite remember why you binged. It's probably quite easy to deduce. If it was during the working day, you might have been stressed, you might have been bored, so have a think about it. So retrospectively think, why did you indulge in your craving? Why did you give in to your craving? Even if you didn't pay attention at the time, just think back, and then especially for the results, how your body felt, how you felt emotionally, what were your thoughts at the time, and that could be a really, really valuable and helpful experience going forward, because the more these retrospective analyses you do, like a good sportsman, in the moment they might have not realized what they did wrong. However, when they replay their game and they watch it back and they talk over with their coach, then they can point out, actually I didn't stretch my legs, I didn't start correctly, I didn't breathe correctly, whatever it is, right? So the same with retrospective awareness. Once you look back at what happened, you can then investigate and put it in your memory bank for the next time, so your brain connects, so I've eaten this, or eaten fast, or eaten so much, or eaten that particular thing, and I felt icky, I felt too bloated, I felt food hangover the next morning, a headache, whatever it was, right? So put that memory and that retrospective investigation and awareness in place, so it's not a waste. So no experience is a waste. Don't be harsh on yourself. Employ kindness, as always. Dr. Judson Brewer keeps on highlighting, employ the kindness tool, right? Mindfulness and kindness, they kind of have to go hand in hand. So that's day 12, okay, today. So if you did some craving indulgences, let's say, right? If you indulged in some cravings, if you just went for it and were not mindful through it, or before or afterwards, then go back now and retrospectively, get those insights and get those little nuggets of information of, what it was that, why did you eat, what it was that you ate, and how it made you feel afterwards, okay? And then day 13, that's where you can put in practice craving tool part 2. So it's exactly similar, same as part 1, craving tool, where you are mindful of why you eat, when you're eating, what you're eating, mindful with every bite, and then what are the results, how you're feeling afterwards, physically in your body, emotionally, and what are your thoughts, right? All of that. However, you're doing this theoretically in your mind, so you're not actually eating, but you are replaying the same situation in your head. And the way you can do this is if you have enough data in your data bank to do this. If you have overeaten on that particular food so many times before and you've been mindful with the craving tool part 1, so now you have enough data to actually just think about, well, what if I eat this food, remember how you felt when you were eating, and especially remember how you felt afterwards, okay? Because that's what is the key, how you felt afterwards, because most of the time your body will tell you that it's unhappy, it's either bloated, it's stretched, you're feeling nauseous or icky, you have a headache, you couldn't sleep, or whatever it was, right? So your body is very, very clever that way. It will give you signals if you just listen. So if you worked with part 1 of the craving tool, where you actually worked with the tool, when you had the craving, you decided to go for it, to eat, but being mindful at every step, right? And once you got enough information, now you can theoretically apply part 2, the craving tool. And in fact, you might have not used the craving tool part 1 too many times before, but if you've done the same thing of overeating on, takeaway food, whatever your favorite is, mine is probably noodles, so like Chinese, Japanese kind of stuff. But yeah, whatever, if you've done this certain thing, overeating or binging, especially it works really well with binges. If you have been binging a lot, right? Binging on foods, massive amounts of foods, where afterwards you feel like you can't move, your stomach feels like it's gonna explode, and just, So if you have that database of experience, you don't necessarily even have to do craving tool part 1. You can move straight into craving tool part 2, where you don't actually necessarily need to indulge your craving and go eat. You can actually just remember why you ate, how it felt while you were eating, and how it felt afterwards. Theoretically, going through this part 2 craving tool, asking the same questions, why would I eat now? So ask yourself, what triggers my craving? So when the craving comes on, obviously ask the same, first question: why am I drawn to eat? What's my craving? Is that a stress thing, emotional thing, or is that actual true hunger? But we're talking more about the cravings that we know it's not true hunger. It's just either a pleasure sensation we want, or bored, or avoiding something, or eating our feelings if we're feeling cross or sad or whatever it is, right? So ask yourself the question why you've got this craving, whether it's habit. Some people have the habit of, they did something good and they reward themselves, so that's quite a usual thing. It might be this craving might have came on because you did something well and you feel like, oh, I'm worth having something nice, so I'll reward myself with XY, your favorite food, right? So it could be that. So yeah, so ask yourself a question: why would you be eating now? Then in your head, think the best you can, from your memory, how it feels when you're eating that food. Okay, go through the motions of remembering how it feels, what's the texture, the taste, the temperature of the food, whatever, and then think back to the results of those indulgences, overindulgences, or crashes, in your kind of insulin levels and your energy levels crashing down, or headaches, or being bloated, or whatever it is, right? Go through the results and remember that, and go in detail into that. And then, if you feel like you can't remember, and you can't envision yourself, your craving might actually increase. Okay, so one of the two things can happen. So if you have enough data in your data bank, and why you normally indulge in these things and how it feels afterwards in your body, right, and emotionally, then your craving will probably subside quite a bit, right? And the second option could be, if you can't quite visualize or remember or imagine yourself eating and what the results of that, indulging in that craving would be, your craving might actually increase for that food, right? So what that means is you need to go to part 1 of the craving tool. Then it means go ahead and indulge in your craving, go ahead and eat whatever you fancy, right? But take note and ask all these questions along as you're doing it, so you fill up your data bank, so that you can do the craving tool part 2 in the future, once you've got enough data eating this particular food. And sometimes you might need to refresh your memory if you haven't had the forbidden food that you crave for a while. You might have forgotten what it tastes like, or what it feels, or what ill after effect, or what effects you get after after eating it. Then you might need to revisit this for yourself, kind of try it 1 or 2 or 3, or how many times you need to refresh your memory, and then go back to using the craving tool part 2, which is just like a visual a visual imagination of the same thing. So instead of eating and kind of giving into your craving, you actually imagine doing that, all the results and everything, and then at the end, hopefully, you will decide not to go ahead with it because you remember all the after effects and all the effects you had from it. So yeah, so these are days 12 and 13. So day 12 was retrospectives, where you remember, even if you forgot to be mindful in the moment when you were eating the craving and you were eating and you weren't mindful, just go back and revisit and just remember what it felt like, and just kind of put that in your database bank retrospectively. And then day 13, we talked about the craving tool part 2, where you don't necessarily anymore need to indulge in your craving because you already got plenty of data in your database that you can just remember, and you know exactly how you felt, what the results were, your physical, your emotional, your mental state afterwards, and you don't need to repeat that behavior, and most likely the craving will dissipate and disappear. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have comments or any questions. I'll be happy to answer after this live. And yeah, I'll see you guys on day 14. Good night.